But all of that said, I know you really didn't come here today to hear about Drew's new business or about mine or about Sherpa Metaphors. You really want to understand what this stuff means to your business. And the good news is I've spent 10 minutes making it sound really hard and scary. And I've used the metaphor of a mountain on which people die every year. Made it sound really scary and frightening and even told you it was impossible. But the good news is it's really pretty simple if you break it down into its basic components. It really is all about what happens next. It's all about 4 relatively simple concepts. The first one is, when people look for you, can they find you? You've run your Spatula City commercial thousands of times, remember, here in Columbus. I want to buy that Roll Tide plastic spatula for my wife on Mother's Day. And I type in the name of your business into Google, can I find you? I type in the name of your business into other places that I might look for you. Yelp is a great example. Facebook is a great example. Can I find you there? I do it on my phone. Can I find you there? And we'll go back in a couple of minutes to why today is a critical day in the history of finding businesses on phones. The second element is, once people find you, do you like what they find? Do they find consistently quality information about your business? One of the difficult pills to swallow oftentimes for people like you, I find, is the realization that when people encounter your business for the first time online, number one, they're not going to do it on a laptop computer. They're going to do it on a phone. And number two, the thing they find about your business the first time is almost certainly not something you created. It's probably not your website. It's probably a YP listing or a Yelp review or a Facebook page or some other digital artifact that other people out there are creating about your business right now that you may or may not know even exists, much less are taking control of and making sure you like. Thirdly, once people have found you and you like what they find, can you put that content into the places where people spend time online? Another difficult takeaway, especially for local businesses who've spent a lot of money having a really nice website built, is that people, consumers, potential customers and actual customers, whether you like it or not, will not spend a lot of time on your website. Period. They just won't. And I don't care what somebody locally told you who charged you $25,000 to build you a fancy new website with 50 pages of content on it. People in the United States today spend time online in 2 places, more or less only. They spend time in email and on social media. Email and social media are the number 1 and number 2 used activities for all people in the United States, in all age groups, in all demographics, in all time zones, on all devices. It's not even close. If you want to reach people under the age of 25, it's social media 1 and email 2. If you want to reach people over 25, it's email 1, social media 2. The question of number 3 is, can you put content about your business into the places people will look for it? And then fourthly, none of the rest of it really matters unless you can turn that content into what you want, a lead. Whether that's a phone call, someone walking into your store, requesting a quote, scheduling an appointment, whatever a lead looks like for you, those are essentially the only 4 things that matter. And they really matter in that order, because you can't do the third one without doing the first 2. So, okay, that's pretty simple, right? But, unfortunately, there's always a but. Google, to you guys, to me, to those of us using it, looks like a pristine white box where you type in whatever you type in, red plastic spatula, Columbus, Georgia, and you get the best possible results, more or less every time. This, though, is a gross oversimplification of what Google actually looks like on the back end. Every time you type words, every single time, anyone in the country, anyone in the world types words into that Google box, hundreds of thousands of calculations are done in milliseconds to determine which websites to show. As recently as 5 years ago, way back in the primordial ooze of the internet, 2009-ish, there was this thing called search engine optimization, or SEO. A lot of you may still spend money on it today. It's still the single largest category of digital spend. SEO is a dinosaur of digital technology that harkens back to a previous era, again, like 2009, when the only thing that Google had to go on to determine which websites to show when I typed in Roll Tide Spatula Columbus were the words that you had embedded in your website. And so you would pay companies hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars a month to shove a bunch of words into your website or to create other things like blogs that pointed back to your website, to create these fancy things called backlinks, because some guy who called himself an SEO was going to tell you, well, that was the way to teach the Google bot, the Google's robot, what websites to show. That doesn't work anymore. There was a day in early 2009, it may or may not have been a couple of days after the Super Bowl, a gigantic U.S. automaker that might have been General Motors, maybe launched a new Chevy during the Super Bowl, maybe spent tens of millions of dollars marketing the launch of this new Chevy during the 2009 Super Bowl, and the ad wizards at another big U.S. car company, maybe the Ford Motor Company, or more specifically the agency that runs all their dealer groups, might have realized, hey, this Chevy car is brand new. We can take all these words about Chevy cars and stuff them into our Ford dealer group's websites. And on the Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday after the Super Bowl, when people start searching for this Chevy car, they'll all come to our Ford dealer websites. Maybe they did that. And maybe Google had an uh-oh moment, realizing that their very existence depends on you getting the most relevant results. And a Ford dealer group's website, when you're searching for a new Chevy, not quite what you were looking for. The digital world changed that day. And what Google has been doing ever since is looking at ways to better determine what websites to show when people search. Why does Google no longer trust the words that you put in your website? Because you have been known to cheat. So what's the first place they look? There are 300 plus what are called directories online. Some of them old-style things like YP listings that have been around forever, the yellow pages, we remember that. Some of them are newer things like Yelp that focus on ratings and reviews. Some of them are category-specific, TripAdvisor if you're in the travel business, or Angie's List if you're in the service business. There are hundreds of them. And they now control, really is the best word, what your business is, where you are, what you do, because they don't cheat. The second thing that Google started to do was realize that there are other, what it calls signals, and we'll come back to a very important one in just a couple minutes, that it can look to figure out what your business is, where you are, what you do, and most importantly, whether or not anyone cares. Social media and ratings and reviews, Facebook and Yelp being the poster children for these, are the two most important aspects of that today. Because the people out there rating your business, the people out on social media, on sites like Facebook, talking about your business, are far less prone to cheat than you are. And in today's world, no matter what words you put in your website, what directories say about your business, what people on sites like Yelp say about your business, what other people on sites like Facebook say about your business, is far more important than anything you say about your business. And I know that's a little scary, but it's true. Once people finally do go to search for your business, there is one website that above all others is critical to the success of your business, and it's that one. How many folks in the room spend time thinking about Google+? I got one hand. All right, 2 hands, 3 hands. We got 3 folks who are ahead of the crowd. Google+ is the single most important website that has ever existed for your business. For you as an individual, it doesn't really matter. But for a business, it's critical. When Google Plus was launched in 2007, and this is why most of you were looking at me like, what are you talking about? When Google Plus was launched, the world thought that Google was trying to launch a competitor to Facebook. They thought, oh yeah, Google figures we need another place for cat videos and pictures of our food, so we're going to create another social network. And when nobody used it that way, the world yawned and said, oh, I don't have to care about Google Plus. And for consumers, that's more or less true. This is what a Google Plus listing looks like. Pretty boring, right? Looks kind of like a Yellow Pages listing. This is for an eye doctor in Wisconsin. The name of the business, the address, the phone number, the hours, maps and directions to that business. This is one of those directories I was talking about before. Most of you, I think, are old enough that you've seen a movie from the 90s called Fight Club. Nodding of heads. A few folks. There's a first rule of digital success, too. And that first rule is Google trusts Google. If you've been known to cheat, and you have, the number one company that Google trusts is themselves. What Google realized in 2007, the reason they launched Google+, was they realized that Facebook and sites like it had developed a lot of connective tissue between people and businesses. What businesses do people like? Which ones are they following? Who are they commenting on? Whose content are they sharing? Who are they paying attention to? And they wanted that information. And they created a social network for businesses to get that information. And as of today, the definitive information about the basic building blocks of your business, what you're called, where you are, when you're open, what you do, how do you get there, and whether or not anyone cares, is on this website. And if, and only if, the content about your business on hundreds of these other directories is exactly the same as what you find on Google+, then you can get the magic result, which is to show up all over Google. It's not what we would call sufficient to show up on the very top of Google search results, but it is absolutely necessary. How many of you guys in the room spend time thinking about Google's AdWords or search engine marketing or paid search? Got to be a couple of hands out there. Got one, I got two, three. All right, same ones that are focusing on Google+. That's interesting. I'll make a couple of provocative statements today. One of them is, while I've told you that I believe, and I do believe, this is why I partner with Drew and folks like these guys. I do believe that broadcast television is the most effective means ever created to let people in your community know that you exist, to let them know what you do, and maybe if you're doing a great job, to make them feel good about buying from you. Google's AdWords, on the other hand, are the most efficient form of marketing that has ever been created. Why? You can write infinite numbers of ad copies for your business for free. You can target them at whomever you want by their age, their demographics, their behavior, their income, their geography, anything else that you can think about. You can test them infinitely. You can target them incredibly precisely. You get amazing real-time feedback up to the second on what people are doing, and you only pay for them when someone clicks on them. When they click on it, you can direct them to whatever landing page you want them to go. You can test all sorts of different landing pages and different offers and different copy for free. But none of that is why these AdWords are on the slide here today. I put them up there because one of those signals that I mentioned, one of those things that Google looks at to figure out, does anyone care about your business? Because remember, you've been known to cheat. They're not going to listen to you. They don't care what you say. One of the things Google looks at is what it calls the wisdom of the crowd. And in addition to people writing reviews about you on Yelp and sharing your content on Facebook, one of the most important ways that you can teach Google that people care about what you do is putting AdWords on a website and having people click on them. The more often people click on these ads for your business, yeah, they go to your website and they can buy from you, which is great, but maybe more importantly, you tell Google that you matter. You convince Google through this wisdom of the crowd that you're really important, that you're a relevant query, so that Google starts to know, oh, when someone searches Auburn Tigers spatula, Columbus, Georgia, you're the business that I should show. It can be, in many respects, even as efficient as I described it already, this can be the most effective tool you have at improving your organic or natural search results. Meaning whether your website sort of shows up for free is, do you teach Google through the use of AdWords that you matter?